Welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam class today. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Vuttama Bhakti Bhavati Naishtikim Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 4, and text number 18. Second canto is entitled The Cosmic Manifestation, and this chapter is entitled The Process of Creation. Kiratahunandra pulindra pulakasha Abhira Shimbhaya Vanakashadaya Yenyacha Papa Yadapashraya Sujyanti Tasmai Prabhavishnave Namaha. Kiratahunandra pulindra pulakasha Abhira Shimbhaya Vanakashadaya Yenyacha Papa Yadapashraya Sujyanti Tasmai Prabhavishnave Namaha. Synonyms: Kirata, a province of old Bharata; Puna, part of Germany and Russia; Andhra, a province of southern India; Pulinda, the Greeks; Pulakasha, another province; Abhira, part of old Sindh; Shambha, another province; Yavana, the Turks; Kasha, Adaya, the Mongolian province; even those, Anye, others; Cha, also; Papa, addicted to sinful acts; Yat, whose; Apashraya, having taken shelter of the devotees of the Lord; Shuddhanti, at once purified; Tasmai, unto him; Prabhavishnave, unto the powerful Vishnu; Nama, my respectful obeisances. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Avechana and the Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation: Kirata, Puna, Andhra, Pulinda, Pulakasha, Abhira, Shambha, Yavana, members of the Kasha races, and even others addicted to sinful acts, can be purified by taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord, due to his being the supreme power. I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Purport: Kirata, a province of old Bharatavarsha mentioned in the Bhishma Parva of Mahabharata. Generally, the Kashas are known as the aboriginal tribes of India. And in modern days, the Santal Parganas in Bihar and Chota Nagpur might comprise the old province named Kirata. Huna, the area of East Germany and part of Russia is known as the province of the Huna. Accordingly, sometimes a kind of hill tribe is known as Huna. Andhra, a province in southern India mentioned in the Bhishma Parva of Mahabharata, it is still extant under the same name. Pulinda, it is mentioned in the Mahabharata Adi Parva 174.38, usually the inhabitants of the province of the name Pulinda. This country was conquered by Bhimasena and Sahadeva. The Greeks are known as Pulindas, and it is mentioned in the Varna Parva of Mahabharata that the non-Vedic race of this part of the world would rule over the world. This Pulinda province was also one of the provinces of Bharata, and the inhabitants were classified amongst the Kshatriya kings. But later on, due to their giving up the Brahminical culture, they were mentioned as mlechas, just as those who are not followers of the Islamic culture are called Kafirs, and those who are not followers of the Christian culture are called pagans. Abhira, this name also appears in the Mahabharata, both in the Sabha Parva and Bhishma Parva. It is mentioned that this province was situated on the river Saraswati in Sindh. The modern Sindh province, namely, extended on the other side of the Arabian Sea, and all inhabitants of that province were known as the Abhira. They were under the domination of Maharaja Yudhishthira, and according to the statement of Markandeya, the militias of this part of the world would also rule over Bharata. Later on, this proved to be true, as in the case of Kulinda. On behalf of the Kulinda, Alexander the Great conquered India, and on behalf of Abhira, Muhammad Ghori conquered India. These Abhiras were also formerly Kshatriyas within the Brahminical culture, but they gave up the connection. The Kshatriyas who were afraid of Parshuramada and had hidden themselves in the Cascasian hilly regions later on became known as the Abhiras, and the place they inhabited was known as Abhira Desha. Shamba of or Kankas. Shamba or Kankas, the inhabitants of the Kanka province of Old Bharata, mentioned in the Mahabharata. Yavanas. Yavana was the name of one of the sons of Maharaja Yayati, who was given the part of the world known as Turkey to rule. Therefore, the Turks are Yavanas due to being descendants of Maharaja Yavana. The Yavanas were therefore Kshatriyas, and later on, by giving up the Brahminical culture, they became Lecha Yavanas. Descriptions of the Yavanas are in the Mahabharata, Adiparva 85.34. Another prince called Turvasu was also known as Yavana, and his country was conquered by Sahadeva, one of the Pandavas. The western Yavana joined with Duryodhana in the battle of Kurukshetra under the pressure of Karna. It was also foretold that these Yavanas also would conquer India, and it proved to be true. Khasa. The inhabitants of the Khasas are mentioned in the Mahabharata, Drona Parva. Those who have a stunted growth of hair on the upper lip are generally called Khasas. As such, the Khasas are the Mongolian, the Chinese, and others who are so designated. The above mentioned historical names are different nations of the world. Even those who are constantly engaged in sinful acts are all corrigible to the standard of perfect human beings if they take shelter of the devotee of the Lord. Jesus Christ and Muhammad, true powerful devotees of the Lord, have done tremendous service on behalf of the Lord on the surface of the globe, and from the version of Srila Sukadeva Goswami, it appears that instead of running a godless civilization in the present context of the world situation, if the leadership of the world affairs is entrusted to the devotees of the Lord, for which a worldwide organization under the name and style of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness has already been started, then by the grace of the Almighty Lord, there can be a thorough change of heart in human beings all over the world, because the devotees of the Lord are able authorities to effect such a change by purifying the dirt-worn minds of the people in general. The politicians of the world may remain in their respective positions because the pure devotees of the Lord are not interested in political leadership or diplomatic implications. The devotees are interested only in seeing the people in general are not misguided by political propaganda, and that the valuable life of a human being is not spoiled in following a type of civilization which is ultimately doomed. If the politicians, therefore, would be guided by the good counsel of the devotees, then certainly there would be a great change in the world situation by the purifying propaganda of the devotees, as known by Lord Chaitanya, as shown by Lord Chaitanya. As Sukadeva Goswami begins his praise by discussing the word Yat Kirtana, Yat Kirtana. So also Lord Chaitanya recommended that simply by glorifying the Lord's holy name, a tremendous change of heart can take place by which the complete misunderstanding between the human nation created by politicians can at once be extinguished, and after the extinction of the fire of misunderstanding, other profits will follow. The destination is to go back home, back to Godhead, as we have several times discussed in these pages. According to the cult of devotion, generally known as the Vaishnava cult, there is no bar against anyone's advancing in the matter of God realization. The Vaishnava is powerful enough to turn into a Vaishnava, even the Kirata, etc., as above mentioned. In the Bhagavad Gita 9.32, it is said by the Lord that there is no bar to becoming a devotee of the Lord, even for those who are low-born or woman, Shudra or Vaishya. And by becoming a devotee, everyone is eligible to return home, back to Godhead. The only qualification is that one takes shelter of a pure devotee of the Lord who has thorough knowledge in the transcendental science of Krishna, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam. Anyone from any part of the world who becomes well conversant in the science of Krishna becomes a pure devotee of the spiritual master for the general mass of people and may reclaim them by purification of heart. Though a person be even the most sinful man, he can at once be purified by systematic contact with a pure Vaishnava. The Vaishnava therefore can accept a bona fide spirit disciple from any part of the world without any consideration of caste and creed, and promote him by regulative principles to the status of a pure Vaishnava who is transcendental to Brahminical culture. The system of caste or Varnashrama Dharma is no longer regular even amongst the so-called followers of the system, nor is it now possible to establish the institutional function in the present context of social, political, economic revolution without any reference to the particular custom of the country. One can be accepted to the Vaishnava cult spiritually, and there is no hindrance in the transcendental process. So, by the order of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the cult of Srimad Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad Gita can be preached all over the world, reclaiming all persons willing to accept the transcendental cult. Such cultural propaganda by the devotees will certainly be accepted by all persons who are reasonable and inquisitive, without any particular bias for the custom of the country. The Vaishnava never accepts another Vaishnava on the basis of birthright, just as he never thinks of the deity of the Lord in a temple as an idol. And to remove all doubts in this connection, Srila Sukadeva Goswami has invoked the blessings of the Lord, who is all-powerful. Prabhu Vishnave Namaha. As the all-powerful Lord accepts the humble service of his devotees in devotional activities of the Archana, his form as the worshipable deity in the temple. Similarly, the body of a pure Vaishnava changes transcendentally at once when he gives himself up to the service of the Lord and is trained by a qualified Vaishnava. The injunction of Vaishnava regulation in this connection runs as follows. Arche Vishnau Siladhir Gurushu Naramatir Vaishnave Jati Buddhi Sri Vishnur Namani Shabda Samanya Buddhi, etc. One should not consider the deity of the Lord as worshipped in the temple to be an idol, nor should one consider the authorized spiritual master an ordinary man, nor should one consider a pure Vaishnava to belong to a particular caste, etc. Padma Purana. The conclusion is that the Lord, being all-powerful, can under any and every circumstance accept anyone from any part of the world, either personally or through his bona fide manifestation as the spiritual master. Lord Chaitanya accepted many devotees from communities other than the Varnashramites And he himself declared to teach us that he does not belong to any caste or social order of life, but that he is the eternal servant of the Lord, who manifests, who maintains the damsels of Vrindavana, Lord Krishna. That is the way of self-realization. Thank you very much. End of the class. Any questions? Hare Krishna. Anyway, so this is we will examining this the case study. We have so many examples in this way. In this context, we have so many references in our revealed scriptures. So accordingly, we will just whatever the time left, I think it's few minutes more, left about maybe 10 to 12 minutes. We will just report just a case study we'll just take. So before that, अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानं जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपदगा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरों श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवं च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं सजीवं सद्वैतं सावधूतं परिगणसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादं सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकाकांत राधाकांत नमस्ते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद नमामि विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते। सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशकारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Taking the blessing of all the assembled Vaishnavas so that I can speak something relevant to the subject matter. So this is one of the slokas that Srila Prabhupada most often quoted this sloka, and it is one of the highest rated slokas, like the way he is during his travels or in any of the lectures that he quoted. This is one of them. So we will take some of the cases that with reference to the above sloka, what comes to our mind, certain cases having spoken or having the examples of this particular words in reference. Actually, now if we think that why at the time this Shukadeva Goswami or Parikshit Maharaj was inquiring about what is to do with this thing, that the creation and about various aspects of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with his creation and other things like that. The person who is just about to die, we understand if we accept Parikshit Maharaj, none of us know how much time do we have. So because of this, the curse of the Brahmin boy, he knows that he is destined to die in 7 days by a snake bite. But at this time, when he comes to inquire about the duties of the person who is about to die, he is inquiring all this sort of the intricate, complex methodology of the creation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's really bewildering. Why? Because it is not that he is not interested, he is worried about his death or anything. He is not interested. He is not worried about the death, that impending death. But he is coming in the lineage of Yudhishthira Maharaj, who was Vipra Dharma Achyuta Bhava. So similarly, this Parikshit Maharaj is also of the same He is paradukha dukhi. He is not worried about himself, but he is worried about you, me, and all of us who are to follow in the future generations to understand actually to what is the creation, how the Lordship creates and maintains and destroys. All these intricate procedures is inquiring. It is actually for a normal person, what is it to do with all these technicalities? Who is about to die? But he is inquiring all that for our benefit. So here we have our founder actually is Dhananjaya Savai Charanarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami. We will just take his case. Now we know he at the age of 69, who was situated well in Vrindavan, in Radha Damodar temple, translating and he is doing his japa. Everything was so nice. But at that advanced age, what made him to come to the West? That is the spiritual master's order. Having taken the spiritual master order, and he prepared, it was a lifetime preparation. At the age of 22, Srila Prabhupada was instructed by his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami, if whenever he gets the money, print books, and also take this, the message of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the English-speaking countries in the Western world. Having that order taken or given at the age of 22, he prepared his lifetime preparation. He had just had this preparation until he had free passage to Samata Murarji from a cargo ship, to a cargo ship. Who would like to travel for 40 days? We just travel for 15, 16 hours from India, direct flight. If we take a direct flight from Delhi, that is so much hassle we just undergo. But then he endured 2 heart attacks, seasickness, and with all that, he landed in Boston Harbor, and then he offers wonderful praise because he was in tears looking at the people living there. They have so much of opulence, but totally zero transcendental knowledge. They are actually suffering. For their suffering, Srila Prabhupada, he just cried tears of compassion. That is who, because he is Vaishnava, pure Vaishnava, Paradukha Dukhi. In that manner, he spent his days in Bauri in the initial days. We all have read by his, this is Lilamrita, that clearly says so many facts that he had undergone so many troubles and tribulations before establishing this worldwide society. So that is another one. That is what we have the case study. This, what else we need more than that? We all having been benefited by this wonderful moment. It's International Society for Krishna Consciousness. He, within the 11 years of time, he traveled 14 times around the world, established a worldwide society, and we have more than 900 temples or centers around the world. And after his spiritual, after his physical absence on this planet Earth, still the movement is growing, and people are joining and practicing. So many are so benefited by this wonderful principles of devotion delineated, and that is on Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu forecasted that once my Senapati will come and take this message all over the world. Also we have what was Narada Muni, what was Valmiki, what Mrugani and Shebari. All these case study we can just, time doesn't permit us, but then Narada Muni, by having accepted the remnants of these Bhakti Vedantis, having heard the transcendental message from them when he was a small boy of the age of 5 years, when his mother was serving the Bhakti Vedantis menial service, he was the son of a maid servant in his previous life. But having taken shelter of this Bhakti Vedantis, having had the remnants with Chista, he became a Manasiputra in his next birth. How? What is it? From the son of a maid servant to son of Brahma, the Manasiputra. That is because the word, the examples are the situation that's quoted in this verse, that is, he is one example of that. Similarly, we have Valmiki. He was robbing and stealing, or in fact, he was killing for the passage by in the forest. And when Narada Muni, he encountered by Narada Muni gives him the transcendental knowledge, and he becomes a pure Vaishnava, thus becomes that brings out a beautiful epic Ramayana. He becomes author of the Ramayana. And Murugari, in short, we can just say that comes in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Murugari was the half killing the animals and taking pleasure in that kind of situation. But when, of course, Narada Muni is the transcendental creature, the space traveler, as our Prabhupada quoted him to be, he is not a stereotype preacher. He understands the case study, and exactly according to that, what is befitting to that particular individual, he would preach them accordingly. So Murugari was half killing. He said, "Why don't you kill fully? Don't half kill them fully." No, I get pleasure in this. But having spoken that way, and he just gives him certain kind of vision, saying that, what are the consequences of this, what you are doing? And he explains him in details everything, and he, by his mystic potency, just makes him see the scene that what he would have to have experienced. But with that, he at once tell him, break your bow and just plant a tulsi and make a small hut near the river Ganges, and then just go there. Then he says, what happens to my livelihood? Don't worry about it. And having implicit faith in Narada Muni's words, he at once does that. He had no ulterior motive. Immediately follows, and people coming to the word spreads like a wildfire. Oh, Murugari, that's the hideous hunter. He became a devotee of Lord. Then everybody comes to see him, and while coming, they don't come empty-handed. Like our devotees, they come to the temple, they bring so many things, flowers, fruits, vegetables, and so much of things like that. Similarly, that is the Vedic custom. They do that, and he had so much, how much he alone can eat. He was just eating him, whatever is preparing, and he's being distributing that so much in abundance. So by having the implicit faith in the spiritual master's words, he had enough to give it away in charity also. And coming to Shabari was also one of the Shabara, the tribal race is mentioned here in this sloka also. Shabari was a forest dweller, and that in the caste that they usually used to herd these pigs, the piggeries. They used to maintain those things when she was the age of 12 years, and then her marriage was scheduled to be, and then when she just got up in the morning, she saw so many, the pigs were just, they put in those things, and in that change inquiries, what is this for? And then just going to be married, and for your marriage, they are not always to be cooked and served to the people who are come attending the for my marriage to be, myself to be married, and this kind of heinous act to be taken or done. No, I shouldn't let this happen. So she gets away, absconds from the house, goes to the forest, going, then she encounters some sages, and then she just approaches them for spiritual understanding, but they don't accept her, saying that you are low born, you are not entitled for this kind of thing. Then she just got deep into the forest and encounters the Matanga Rishi, the great sage, and then he explains the transcendental knowledge, and she gives her for the transcendental knowledge and tells her, and he entrusts her with the service of that. One later part of the time, Lord Sri Ramachandra with his brother Lakshman will pass through this way. You stay until here, and then after that you can come back to the spiritual world after having completed your task assigned to you. And she was doing that with the implicit faith of the spiritual master's words. She did not get worried. She was at the age of 12. She just encountered the Matanga Rishi, but she waited until it was at least about 60 to 70 years doing the same thing. Every day cleans up the ashram, brings the flowers, forest flowers, decorates the flowers, and then brings the fruits, offers it, and then like that, we know the story, how when Lord Ramchandra, along with his brother Lakshman, passing through the forest, he visits her, and she gives him the fruit tasted by her, without an innocence that Lord should be given the sweet fruits, not the bitter ones. And she just does that. Lord Ramchandra accepts that her offering because it was offered in a very, very simple and humble, lovable thing. Like so, here in this also, just there's 1 minute or thing. We just there is another shloka. It comes in Shiva Vipra ke banyasi Sudra ke nanai. Yehi Krishna Tattva Sayi Guru Hoy. So this is wonderful. Again, the same parallels with this to this sloka. This is a person may be a Brahmana, sannyasi, Shudra, or whatever, but if he is well conversant in the science of Krishna, he can become Guru. Madhya Lila Chaitanya Charitamrita 8.128. It speaks to this. This statement is supported by the Madhavendra Puri. According to the Pancharatra injunction, only a householder Brahmana can initiate, others cannot. When a person is initiated, it is assumed that he has become a Brahmana. Without being initiated by a proper Brahmana, one cannot be converted into a Brahmana. In other words, unless one is a Brahmana, he cannot make another a Brahmana. A Grahastha Brahmana partaking the Varnashrama Dharma institution can secure various types of paraphernalia to worship Lord Vishnu through his honest labor. Actually, people beg to be initiated by these householders, Brahmanas, just to become successful in the Varnashrama institution or to become free from material desires. It is therefore necessary for a spiritual master in the Grahastha ashram to be a strict Vaishnava. A spiritual master from the sannyasa order has very little opportunity to perform archana, deity worship, but when one is okay. A spiritual master simply must be conversant in the essence of the Shastra. He must understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only then one can become a spiritual master. Diksha actually means initiating a disciple with the transcendental knowledge by which he becomes free from all material contaminations. So this is a wonderful sloka in Sri Charitamrita. I thought it is very relevant to mention here in this. So I think it's a time of, we have exceeded about 2-3 minutes more. So any reflections on this? Within 1 or 2 can just be there if you feel necessary also. Thank you very much. Please, let's go without wasting a minute.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you for giving, even though you had a short time, you gave us a lot of insight of what spiritual master's mercy is. I had one reflection that even Krishna had given so much instructions to Arjuna after the fight. On the last day of the fight, he won. Finally, they won, right? So then Arjuna said he was supposed to get down from the chariot, but Arjuna said, "Krishna, you get down first." No, Krishna said, "No, you get down." So then they were thinking that I am the Krishna is the Sarathi. Oh, he first of all, what happens? You get down, and then the VIP will get down later. That kind of because he won the war. It's not that he doesn't know, but it's just the little pride came in. Then finally, after the discussion, Arjuna came down first, and then Krishna came. After that, Krishna went down. Then immediately the chariot burned into ashes. Basically, so much it came into a complete flame. Then Arjuna asked Krishna, what happened? Why were you telling me this? Now I understand what is this insight of this? Then Krishna said, all these Maharathis, kind of the Bhishma, Drona, everybody has so much arrows on your chariot, and it was supposed to be burned earlier. Because of my presence, nothing happened. Okay. Now you are thinking that you did it. So the moment you got down, if I would have got down first, you would have been burnt in the flame. So, And then he said, okay, if after all these 18 days, all this war only it happened, but every day I was, getting down from the chariot. How about that? Then Krishna showed the flag on the top of the chariot. That's Hanuman flag, a pure devotee who is also an acharya. Then what do we understand from this is, as long as the acharya and Krishna is there in our heart, you'll be saved. So if you think that, I am the doer, this is what happens. Just like, because the chariot is nothing but refers to our body.
Of course.
So what we need to understand is, as long as Acharya's mercy, like Hanuman's flag, and he said Hanuman flag also actually flew away. Where is the Hanuman flag? Oh, Hanuman flag also flew away. So what it understands is, without the Guru Maharaj mercy and Krishna's blessings, and there is no way we can even progress in anything for that matter. So I was just relating to without the spiritual master, but I added even Krishna, because we will get Krishna by Guru, and we will also get Krishna, Guru by Krishna.
That's what we sing every day in the morning in as Guru Vasudha. That is how it is, because the spiritual master is empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because otherwise spiritual master doesn't feel himself is just something very great, because of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, empowerment of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he becomes an agency through which he can initiate disciples or accept disciples and give them or train them in the transcendental knowledge. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much. Anybody else has anything, quick thing like that? Or else we can close them. Okay, Lakshmikant Prabhu, I think there are no more. Anything that we can close down. I think it's 8 minutes after 8 o'clock.
Okay, Prabhu, thank you so much. Hare Krishna. I came out, Prabhu, so I made you as a host. We can end the call.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
You can end the call, Prabhu.
Yeah.